And the third was, I'm watching the white stucco ceiling, and I know it's white stucco, I know that, but it's starting to get colors again, and it's shaping into visions. And what are the visions? The visions are of the life cycle in an ancient Mesoamerican culture. Babies being born, it's all in the motif of what you see in their glyphs and in the Mesoamerican art. And babies are being born, the mothers are nursing the babies, the children playing or growing up, people working in the fields, growing old, dying, the next generation, people making love, the next generation come out. This was just unfolding in this beautiful, beautiful panorama. And I'm just blown away by this. And I hear this inner voice saying, what you're seeing is something that you experienced. You were here. You're seeing movies of something you experienced X amount of years ago, and not only that, at some point you're going to go back. You're going to come back, but it's not for you to seek out. You just go on with your life. We'll let you know. So I've got these three areas of information that totally blew out the fuse box of my belief system about reality, about life, about what's real, what's not. 15 years later, after I'd helped start the first at-home hospice program in the United States before starting to work with children with life-threatening illness. So I'd been doing Vision Quest for about 10 years. After being initiated in that process, and elders saying, "Oh yeah, you need to be doing this with folks," I knew I needed to be doing it with me. All of this stuff, I needed to be doing it for me. But it seems like I'm not the Lone Ranger with how these kinds of experiences can be helpful in our lives. So the importance of intentionality with all this work. So I'm going about trying to live my life, raising a family, working, doing this, that, and the other thing, having amazing experiences, sitting bedside with children and adults while they're dying. And we'll get to, that's the second part of the focus for tonight, so I'll get to that shortly. 15 years later, in the middle of all of this, up from the depths, I hear of the opportunity of joining a small group of people through a man who married into the Huichol tribe and was opening a doorway to bring those into a pilgrimage with the Huichols. And I'd known of and heard of the Huichols through my study about psychedelic history and talking to people. And when I heard about this opportunity, it was like that what had been submerged from the LSD trip 15 years ago just burst up from the ground and said, "This is it. This is what you need to do." So I went and met the person and convinced them, because they didn't know me, to take me on this journey. And when I walked into the Huichol village in central Mexico there for the first time, and there was a ceremonial fire, and the people were around there, and the immediate experience I had was walking into sanity. I'm with sane people, which I very, very rarely, if ever, had in this culture, except the time when I went out. Some of you, maybe old timers, remember a guy named Rolling Thunder, and early in the 70s, I spent a lot of time with Rolling Thunder, and went up to his place out in Metatante, out in the desert in Nevada. I felt sane there. The only other time I felt it was when I went down to be with the Huichols. And so that led to, like Howard mentioned, an 11-year apprenticeship. I wasn't there for 11 years because I had family and kids and da-da-da. So I'd have to go down periodically and get assignments from each year from the shamans that they'd keep an eye on and then check me out when I came back. And at the end of the 11 years, I was able to finish what the assignments were, and then there was a big bull ceremony in the village of a kind of a initiation into Huichol, Huichol style. And throughout all these experiences, the Vision Quest, the medicine work with the Huichols, and also with a curandera from Mazateca curandera, Doña Julieta, thank you for your lives. Working with the mushrooms, spent time with her and learning her ways. So very fortunate, very blessed, very thankful for the gifts of grace. Always looking at what can I get from this experience that can make a difference in my life. I just don't want to get my nut off. That's fine, but I'm always looking for how can I make my life better? How can I, in my family, in my marriage, in my friendship, and what my sense is of my assignments in this life. We all have assignments in relationship to, we all have a spiritual curriculum to work. We all have assignments in relationship to the gifts that we have, the medicine that we carry. How might I be able to get something from this experience? Or what of the experience can I take hold of and use in a meaningful way in this realm, in this body, in these relationships, and in the craziness of the capitalist system that we live in, and the challenges that we're facing? How might I be able to get something from this that I can integrate and apply in my life and maybe would be helpful in my work with other people? So these three openings totally gave me a whole new set of understanding about what it means to be a human being alive in this day and age, and the responsibility that goes with the opening the doorway with these sacred plants in respectful relationship, and when we're given something meaningful, the responsibility that goes with doing the best we can to integrate that in our lives and live from as best we can what those plants, those spirits have helped us to see, both in terms of the work we have to do with our shadow stuff as well as the truth of who and what we really are. Sacred, worthy, luminous beings whose essence is love, and the love is forgiving. And to be channels for that kind of light and love through our bodies, through our psyche, into our relationships, our intimate relationships, our work relationships, and that's what it's about, without unattached to outcome. Just show up. A metaphor I love is the medicine can help us. I can think of a hose in gardening, and you hook the hose up to the spigot, and you turn the spigot on, and the water starts to come through, and you see, well, the roses need some watering. Well, the gladiolas, yeah, they need some watering. And the peyote needs a little watering. Yeah. So the medicine can help us. Now, wouldn't it be absurd for the hose to think, aren't I far out? Look what I'm doing. Aren't I cool, man? I mean, you've got to dig my action. Look what I'm doing. It'd be ridiculous, because it's the water. It's the juice that's coming through, right? And where does the water come from? It hooked up with the big mama source of the water. So that's what the medicine does. It can help us, show us how to hook up and turn the spigot on. And then we have a potential to be the hose for that medicine to come through us, and water, take it out as water into the wherever the circumstances of our lives place us, because that's the opportunity for us to do the work that the plant medicine has been given us to do where you live, and your work, and in your relationships. So that's the first part of what how the medicine can enrich our lives in those two ways. So how can it enrich us in our dying process? Well, I think a couple of ways. To the extent that we do the work, we do the integration work with our shadow material that's been brought into conscious awareness through the medicine. And also the other side of that, we begin to cultivate through a practice, some kind of practice, a mindfulness practice that's in alignment with what we've seen through our visions, what we've heard, what we've been gotten, that shows us our highest potential. And we've made the effort to find a meaningful practice that works for us, because it doesn't happen without a practice. It doesn't happen without a practice. So if we've done that work, and it comes to our time for physical dying, I notice a big difference between the people, no matter what their age is, the people who've showed up and lived their authentic lives, lived their soulful, authentic lives from integrity. And not judged by society's standards of what success is, but from the inner, living in a way that your soul feels fed. When we live from our integrity, when we live from our authenticity, doesn't feel fed, and nothing external will feed our soul. Nothing external will feed our soul. It has to be from listening to what the needs are in our deeper soul, and then trying to live in relationship to that as best we can. So the people who have done that, when it comes time to, okay, man, you're being squeezed, it's time to, life's leaving. So those of us who can turn around and look back on the path of our lives and say, well, yeah, I showed up and I gave it my best shot. Not to be somebody else's definition of me or what I should do, but I showed up and gave it my best shot to be me. To be the fullest and highest, and tried to reach the highest potential of what I could be in this life. Wasn't perfect. 100 times a day I blew it, dropped the ball, but that's part of it. Learning the compassion and gentleness for ourselves to pick up see where I tripped on the banana peel, what triggered my reactivity. That's part of the spiritual curriculum, to go see what the things I need to work on so I can, in fact, be more consistent in living from what the plants people have showed me. That like what I saw in that first vision, I can be a channel. You can be a channel for unconditional love anytime we want. Don't have to ask for it to come into us. We can be channels for infinite creativity, each of us in our own unique way, in our own beautiful, anytime we want. We can all, there's a wonderful chant I started doing a little while ago, goes like this, which speaks to intentionality and realizing our highest potentials. Let's see, how does it start? I carry my heart through this world. I carry my heart through this world. I carry my heart through this world like a life-giving sun, shining so bright on each and every one, shining so bright on each and every one. Oh, I carry my heart through this world. Yes, I carry my heart through this world. I carry my heart through this world like a life-giving sun, shining so bright on each and every one, shining so bright on each and every one. So that song speaks to our highest potential, each of us in our own individual way. We all have the ability to access a state of consciousness inside of us, of that unconditional love, of that light, and be channels for it. Hook up to the spigot, turn it on, and let's boogie, let it come out to wherever it needs to go. And that's why we're here. That's what's going to help us. The more consistent I can be live with the words of that song, the richer my life is. The more consistent you in your own unique way can be with what the song speaks to, the richer your life's going to be. And so the people who live that way as best we can in our full humanness, remembering it's not about perfection, it's about reaching our arms out wide enough to embrace the fullness of our humanity, including those parts that the ego is ashamed of or is embarrassed about or wishes wasn't there. I can't let anybody see that, including all of those parts, embracing all of that, of our human, what it means to be a human being. So they have a different experience when it's time for the spirit to leave the body. They look back on their life and say, yeah, I showed up and I didn't live somebody else's shoulds. I did the best I could to live what my soul was telling me to live. I tried to do it in all my relations as best I could. The people who haven't, these are all, of course, generalizations, that who haven't done that work to be able to listen to, go beneath all of society's brain fuck stuff to tell us who we are and how we should live our lives and what values we should base our life on, who've been hypnotized by the culture in that way and haven't broken through it, and psychedelics can help us break through it like it did with me, haven't been living their lives, haven't been living their integral, authentic, heartfelt, soulful lives. And all of a sudden it's coming to the end of the line. It's like, whoa, need more time here, not okay. I see now, I get it. Give me a little more time so I can... and the medicine of death says, time to go, Jack. Maybe next time. Maybe next time. Maybe not. So I see one of the potential ways of having been bedside with so many people crossing over, that the work with psychedelics, and by the way, I need to say, psychedelics are not for everybody. Absolutely not for everybody. There are contraindications why some people should not be taking psychedelics. These are sacred instruments, not instruments, sacred elders, wisdom elders, and the power that they hold, power can go in many different directions, and so there's contraindications. Some people should not be taking psychedelics. They don't have a strong enough container, you might say, to be handling that energy, and not just get amped out by it and not be able to come back to their lives. So I just wanted to say that, the importance of that. Not for everybody. Another way that work with the psychedelics has the potential to help us with the dying experience is twofold. One is when the medicine starts to come on, and if you've taken a strong enough dose, what'll it do? It'll dissolve, like Brother Terrence spoke about, it'll dissolve the linguistic structures in your mind that give us the framework for what we have reality. And then, oh my God, I'm losing my mind. That's the good news and the bad news. If you don't understand it, it's bad news. And then you're out of control and you're freaking out. Oh my God, I'm losing my mind. If you understand it, hallelujah, man. I've been meditating for 30 years waiting for this. And it's like, praise be. So people who haven't had an altered state of consciousness and death comes, it can be really quick sometimes, but more often it's slower. And so one of the things they experience is altered states of consciousness that the medical tradition calls hallucinations. So if you haven't had any altered states of consciousness, you haven't learned how to navigate in altered states of consciousness, you haven't had experiences where you know there's more to you than rational, logical consciousness, your body and your ego, and all of a sudden that's being opened up by these altered states, it's pretty scary. People are freaking out. Need help, they need guidance, they need grounding to help them. My dad, when he was dying, and I was there helping him as midwife in that process, powerful atheist in his life, he was very successful through a really strong, controlling fierceness, and his rational mind, logical mind, when I first got into meditation, 40 some odd years ago, and he'd make fun of that navel gazing, you're wasting your time. He was a social activist, he was a righteous, wonderful human being and a political activist and a social activist all his life. I have great respect for him. But he had no consciousness of altered states of consciousness. So when he was dying finally, and he asked me, he said, when he realized that the power of his will that enabled him to be so successful in life had not been successful, along with the chemotherapy and everything else, to stop the cancer. And when they opened him up for the last time in the hospital, and the doctor said he's got about 5 or 6 days, he thought he'd been in denial about death. Whenever I tried to talk to him about death or feelings, to change the subject, or he would just be silent, wouldn't say anything. Okay? But I had to be the one to, because he was hard of hearing, I had to get about 5 inches away from his face and said, Dad, they open you up and your body's riddled with cancer. You've got about 5 or 6 days left. And he was silent for a long time. And then he went like this. And I said, Dad, what is that? He said, I'm walking the last mile. And then he said, because now he was bereft of tools. The power of his focused, intentional will didn't help. Well, now what do I do? He didn't have any tools to deal with that. He had no experience of altered states of consciousness. He was rigidly connected with, there's only one state of consciousness and anything else is, whack. He said to me, will you help me to die? Huge opening. And through that opening, I went in there with him, and as he progressed on a journey through altered states, he would get to places where he'd get stuck, and he would start to freak out. He's got all these tubes and everything, and he's at home, he's dying at home. And so I'd have to help him navigate through those places where he got stuck. So I would go with him up to that gate, see what was happening there, and okay, well, here's what we need to do here, and we'll pull this lever here and push that button there, and okay, gates open, and then he'd move peacefully for a while in the journey until he got to the next, and then I'd have to track him where he was going, and then help him when he got to that place. So it was a progression through these doorways where we'd get blocked, until finally he got through the last doorway, and he died peacefully, which is what he wanted to do. So the potential of psychedelic experience to help us before we get to the place of our physical death gives us opportunity to learn how to experience altered states, how to navigate in altered states. If we've had an experience that helped us open to see that we're more than our physical bodies, the transcendent self, the part of ourselves, like Ramdas said, that existed before it came into this body, exists after this body goes back into the earth. We've had experiences to help us do this. Then there's less anxiety, there's less fear. It's like, yeah, well, this is dying. Yeah, it's like, whatever my feelings are, I'm sad about it, or wish I had more time, or whatever. But I feel good about my life, and so if it's time to go, it's time to go. And so let's go through the doorway and back into the mystery. Where am I going? I'm going back where I came from, so going back home. Medicine helps me see. So it reduces the anxiety, it gives us experience of learning how to navigate, and it gives us a base of understanding that can help us peacefully let go and surrender. So when we don't have any of that, and most people in our culture don't have that because the culture is tight-assed about rational, logical, and that's it. It's sad. It makes me feel sad for that we're not able to legally work with folks in these kinds of ways. And I've worked with a number of terminally ill people with different medicine experiences that have helped them in precisely the ways I'm talking about. So let's see, it looks like it's about 10 of 8 there, so maybe we'll take a break. And how long we take a break? 10 minutes?
10-minute break, and come back and we'll do some question and answers.
Yeah, so then I'd like to open it up. I'll see during the break if anything comes up for me that I want to share. And then let's open it up, and whatever you want to get into, I'm welcome. Bring it on. Let's boogie here. All right, thanks. Oh.